Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the council meeting of September 23, 2024. I'd like to start with the welcome and acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the country and as traditional custodians of the land. We respect their ancestors, elders and young people and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. All councillors are present, so there are no apologies. And a request for leave of absence.
Thank you. I'd just like to request a leave of absence on the 25th, the meeting on scheduled for the 25th of November. 25th of November? October, sorry. Yep. 21st. I wrote down 21st too. Sorry. Yeah, I'll be unable to attend or via link because I won't be in a safe environment. Thank you.
Councillors? Yep, second. No conversation. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Any councillors? No? The next item is item 4.1, financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2024. I'd like to ask Officer Dina Bleckett to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The annual financial report for the year ended 30 June 2024 has been audited by Crowe Australasia under contract by the Victorian Auditor General. Earlier today, the annual financial report along with the performance statement were presented to the Audit and Risk Committee for their endorsement. The Audit and Risk Committee recommended that Council adopt the financial report. From the comprehensive income statement, we can see that for the 23-24 financial year, Council received total income of $77.98 million and incurred total expenses of $77.86 million, which resulted in a modest operating surplus of $123,000 and a total comprehensive result, including a gain from reevaluation of assets of $26.40 million. This operating surplus of $123,000 includes $684,000 in monetary contributions, $4.01 million in capital grants and $4.41 million in non-monetary contributions. When we deduct those capital items from the operating surplus, there is an underlying deficit of $8.98 million. A large proportion of this deficit, being $6.25 million, is as a result of the timing of the receipt of the annual financial assistance grant, with only a small proportion of the budgeted grant being received in the 23-24 financial year. The majority of the 23-24 grant was received in the 22-23 financial year, and the 24-25 financial assistance grant was received early in this current financial year. Once we adjust for this, Council are left with the remaining underlying operating deficit of $2.73 million, which underscores the importance of the recent financial sustainability review and the subsequent reductions in net recurrent spending going forward. Notwithstanding this underlying operating deficit, as can be seen from the balance sheet, Council remains in a strong financial position with $12.73 million in cash and $27.42 million in term deposits, a working capital ratio of 3 and just under $800 million in net assets. When it comes to the strong cash position, it is important to note that at least half of this cash is tied up through working capital and other restrictions such as the developer contributions and waste management reserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Bleckett. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Quilty. As recommended, Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you very much, the Finance Department, the Finance officers present at this meeting, and their staff for this report. The introduction has been fairly accurate and not fairly accurate, 100% accurate, and there isn't much to add for me without going into the weeds. I would like to point out that these financial statements, apart from being audited, also have been looked at by this council's Audit and Risk Committee, of which myself and Councillor Chamberlain are members. It was looked at with thorough attention. A lot of detail was discussed, a lot of questions were asked and answered exhaustively, and the Audit and Risk Committee was happy to receive and endorse these financial statements. I'm also happy to receive it as is and vote in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Chamberlain, reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yes, I'd just like to ask a question from Brent, our Manager for Finance. Just on page 30, there was a page 30, trade and other receivables, current. There's a difference of 665,000 in the debitors to the financial year last year, and just would like if you could give an explanation on what that's about. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Hall. The difference relates to the collection of rates. So over the past 12 months, we have experienced delayed payments in rates from some ratepayers. This is directly correlated to a change in Victorian government policy with respect to the levying and collection of rates, which essentially blunts the instruments available to the council to collect until a significant portion of time has passed before the matter can be referred to external collection. However, as Ms Flecker has pointed out, the strong position of council's finances has enabled it to be able to withstand this without needing to take immediate action, and the finance department does actively manage the outstanding rate debtors in a collegiate way with ratepayers to try and facilitate payment as promptly as we can.
Thank you. Yep. Look, yeah, I'm going to support the recommendation in the report. I think there's always a lot of work at the end of the year coming together with these financial statements and the good work that the Audit and Risk Committee have assessed what we've put in front of them and are happy with what has been produced. It's very much noted that if we hadn't addressed the recurring operational debt of the 2.8 million, we would be looking at taking that forward again. So it needed to be done, and I'm quite happy that we've addressed it and left our budgetary situation in a surplus. Whilst it's not a lot, it's better to be in a surplus than in the red. So yes, I'm happy with supporting this report tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Just a question to you, Mr Mayor, to anyone in the finance team. Just a quick explanation, please, on working capital ratio of 3 and what that actually means for the public at home. Thank you.
So the working capital ratio is a financial tool that looks at the current assets of council and compares it to the current liabilities and then gets a score. And in the case of council, the current score is 3. A score of 1 is considered basically baseline solvent. Organisations typically strive for scores above 1. 1.5 to 2 is considered safe. However, that's usually in the circumstances of where organisations such as private and public companies have the opportunity of reaching out to shareholders to raise funds in the event that something goes wrong. And so part of the reason for a local government organisation to have a higher ratio in a most ideal situation is it does provide contingencies in the event that something doesn't go to plan. For example, an asset sale or unexpected costs that may arise through things such as waste or other contingencies that can come. And so overall, the rating of 3 puts us in a healthy position, but not a position that is extremely well cashed up, and we must consider it in the context of the fact that we obviously can't access capital outside of our rates and borrowings, and therefore need to be conservative in how we manage.
Thank you for your explanation. It's good. It's good to see that we're not in dire straits and we're using good fiscal management to continue to move forward. So just like to thank Councillor Quilty and Chamberlain for sitting in on the Audit and Risk Committee. I wouldn't know personally, but I've heard it's a very big job to do, and I thank you for your time that you spent there. And I'll be endorsing the recommendation tonight too. And it's probably worthy of note that, you know, there's a couple of really important documents that we see, and, you know, council plan being one, and this financial plan statements are two. It's also worthy of note, this ends 30th of June 2024, so some of those implementations that we did put in place haven't been realised yet and won't be realised for a little bit of time yet. There's a key component in it that there's mandatory disclosures, and we've disclosed everything and more that's mandatory. So when people talk about transparency and things like that, I don't think you can get any more transparent than what we've provided here. So it's credit to the staff and everyone involved. So thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Poulton, question?
Question to you, Mr. Mayor, because I did walk in prior to this meeting, and I know councils were given the opportunity to go through a briefing. Was there anything, to your knowledge or the CEO's knowledge, where the public had asked questions that were relevant to this decision?
I think the operative word might be relevant. Given that we're in caretaker mode, we're not permitted to take questions and bring them to the council meeting. However, if any of the public have raised matters that the staff thought were serious or needed to be looked at through the lens of possible change in the circumstances within which we find ourselves, and those circumstances are that we can't actually change the budget from where it is now, since it's changed the reports from where they are now, based on the fact that we would have to go back out to public consultation. We would have to do a whole range of things, which would mean that we wouldn't meet the statutory deadlines anyway. But the documentation has been through a fairly rigorous process with the Audit and Risk Committee, and to this point, whilst there might have been some questions, they haven't been regarded as being of such gravity that would force us to go back and have another think and to look at the report in light of the context that we find ourselves timing-wise. So I guess the answer is there's probably been things that have been floated by residents, but at this point in time they haven't had the gravity to warrant a change in the circumstances that we're in. Do you wish to continue to speak?
If I can get a nod that perhaps the CEO feels the same way for myself, for my own benefit.
Mr. CEO?
Councillor Pullen, I'll reassure you that we have received questions, and those matters were all raised at the Audit and Risk Committee today and discussed in detail, also discussed with the staff, and the Audit and Risk Committee came to a conclusion to endorse the statements and recommend that Council pass them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain, you're reserved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, it was appropriate, I think, that Councillor Quilty moved this motion and I second it, given the fact that we have the most access to these documents before the council meeting, being members of the Audit and Risk Committee and having been through a fairly substantial question and answer period over the veracity and the resolutions and things that are happening in these documents. The committee, a hell of a lot more qualified than I am for the most part, have endorsed both the way that the council staff have gone about putting these documents together. In fact, they've been very, very positive in their endorsement about the way these documents are put together, and indeed of the result and how things have been handled internally. So again, can I congratulate Director Bleckett and Brent for the work that they've done. They've made these things that I can understand, and I can tell you I'm just a basic motor mechanic from way back, and that makes my job a hell of a lot easier, and it makes it a lot easier for me to endorse the results of these findings. As I've said, as Director Bleckett stated earlier, the financial review that was done by this council, I think, has been vindicated in as much as we've actually put together some financial statements and we've got the council into a position where we are solvent, we know where we're going, there's still some work to do, but this is actually happening, and we're in a fairly solid financial position. There are some councils out there, and I'll guarantee you that are not, would be more than happy to be in the position that we are right now. And some of them, let's be honest, won't even know about it yet. But again, I just want to thank the staff, the work they've done, the Audit and Risk Committee. It is a lot of work, there's a lot of reading, there's a hell of a lot of numbers, but we're more than happy to do that because I think it's important, and I will be obviously recommending this to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Quilty to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I already thanked earlier today the chair and the members of the Audit and Risk Committee and the representative of Crowe Australasia who audited our financial statements. Just as Councillor Lowe pointed out absolutely correctly, this report reflects our financial performance and financial position as of a couple of months ago, 30th of June 2024. Our forecast was already for the following year, 12 months, and beyond that was discussed in the budget earlier this year. I would like once again to congratulate our finance staff and this council for looking at our financial position early and taking measures and setting this council on and the city on the right path, on the path to win, despite the financial situation locally in the country, in the world at large. We have a good, solid, workable plan on how we're going to continue to provide services, how we're going to continue to pay off debts, and how we're going to function effectively and efficiently. It has come to my attention that a lot of municipal governments in Victoria are concerned, to say the least, about their financial position and financial sustainability. Well, we have already done our financial sustainability review. We have had external consultants, we have had internal financial sustainability reviews. Efficiencies were suggested by staff, then directions were given by council to create more efficiencies, and that was done. And while this financial performance statement shows a small deficit, it's totally workable, and our financial ratios and that outlook is very good. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Before we move on to the next one, I'd like to say thank you to our staff for the hard work that they've done on the statements that we've just approved. Next item is 4.2, performance statement for the year ended 30 June 2024. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain, as recommended. And Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Chamberlain.
Not a hell of a lot to say to this. The information in this is simply feedback and of the performance that the council has had over the last 12 months. It's fairly self-explanatory. There's a few things that obviously we can work on. There's a few things that we're doing very well, and there's always more to do. But in generally speaking, I endorse this report and tend to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Simpendorfer. Reserve. Any other? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to point out that this report was also reviewed and discussed by Audit and Risk Committee earlier today. There are a number of performance criteria showing how this council has done in a lot of ways, in services, in governance, and in other areas. There is a lot of commentary provided next to the ratios and performance indicators that explain the situation very well. Although I normally like to go into the financial weeds of it all, I won't do this this time. I would like to point out the performance of our aquatic facilities, which is a big community asset. The usage ratio has risen to 8.24 compared to 6.82 in 2023 financial year. And we are looking at the post-COVID rate of usage. The costs might be slightly higher due to the change in contracts. However, as I was reassured during the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, that's due to the changing in contracts and one upfront payment, and hopefully we have a good outlook for these community facilities in the 5 years to come. Wodonga Sports and Leisure Centre has recently been refurbished, so please use, enjoy and improve your health outcomes with this great community facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Other councillors? Councillor Poulton, question?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just regarding the information in section 2, which starts on page 68 of 80 of our digital reports, but is actually page 5 of the document. Just for the community's benefit, where that information is extracted from again, thanks. Diverted through to wherever it needs to go, maybe the CEO. Thank you.
Mr. CEO. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Poulton. The information comes from a variety of different council systems. To use the aquatics facility, which is the first one on that page as an example, information is obtained from the council's contractor that operates those facilities on its behalf, Aligned Leisure. That data then goes through an internal review process around the accuracy and reliability of that data. Once we have reached a level of internal comfort, that data is also then subject to audit by Crow, who performs a similar procedure to what we've performed internally to again reach comfort and express a reasonable assurance opinion on it. And a similar process is then followed through with each of the other metrics depending on the specifics. So obviously if it's a planning metric, the information is coming from our statutory planners. If it's a metric around waste, the information is coming from our waste transfer station. Overall, it's quite a robust process to actually be able to collate this information, and it is information that the public can rely on. They can also, if they're interested, access this information for other councils in Victoria to benchmark the performance of Wodonga against those other organisations. And similarly, it's been audited by the Auditor General for those other councils and therefore can be relied on.
Thank you. Councillor Poulton.
Thanks very much for getting the answer for me, Mr. Mayor. I just want to highlight on page 69 of 80, which is page 6 of the actual document, just the governance, the satisfaction with community consultation and engagement. It's slipping and has slipped considerably from where it was in 2021 to where we've arrived actually today. And I just think that's a very perhaps poignant reminder of what a councillor's and a group of councillors' role is specifically the governing body of the city. Whilst our target there was 61 as a score out of 100, we got 54 as our actual. And the greatest we've ever been was back in 21 based on the data that we've got in front of us at a score of 60. So I'd highlight that for councillors that are being re-elected potentially again, but also for the community to take a look at that specific figure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting report here. There's sort of quite a bit of interesting information. You've got maternal health. We're doing well in maternal health, and I know that for a fact because my daughter's used it 3 times, and she always, commends the what we do there from a user's point of view. As for the, as Councillor Poulton mentioned about the governance, yes, we can always improve, but when we got that report, we were above, for similar other regional councils, we were above where they sat. So, yes, there is always work we can do, but since the COVID and, a lot of those road issues, which some of them are state that are thrown back onto councils, there is that perception that councils do need to do better, and I agree. We all do agree with that. But as a whole, we're doing well in considering other regional councils. So that's a good one. We're doing well, keeping on with the waste management diversion. We've always stayed around the 70 plus, so that's a good outcome. Statutory planning is at 76, nearly 77%. That's a high rating compared to some of the other councils. So if you go through this, you'll get some good information, and I won't go through all of it, but there's some, I think we're doing well considering, we are in tough inflationary times, and we need to keep ahead of the ball with all that. But going forward, I think, I think we've left our council in a fairly good position. So I'm happy with what the report has said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Coulty, question?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. Perhaps to the Finance Department officers. This governance bit that Councillor Poulton so correctly pointed out on page 6 of the report, the description says governance and underneath satisfaction with community consultation and engagement. Is the score related specifically to community engagement, or is it governance overall, other aspects of governance as well?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Quilty. The description that is on it is that it relates to community consultation and engagement, and therefore is a benchmark of satisfaction with that, rather than a benchmark of satisfaction with the entire governance operation of the council.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. Other councillors? Councillor Simpendorf, are you reserved?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I won't speak specifically around numbers in this document, but again, encourage people to get in and have a look. There's some really good numbers there that, we as councillors, we need to be aware of. and certainly a new council coming in will need to look at. There's always room for improvement. I think every councillor is looking around the room here saying that's a yes, and whether that's governance or whether that's libraries or maternal health, I think there's always room for improvement. So it's a great document to put in front of us and endorse. It'll have my support to endorse so that the wider community can have a look at that data themselves and make their own judgments and views on that. So I'd encourage everyone to have a look and make their own assessments, but it'll have my support, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, not a lot more to say. Just further on from what Councillor Hall mentioned earlier, we've been patting the Finance Department on the back. They've done a hell of a job. I want to pat the Statutory Planning Department on the back here too. There's been a marked improvement on the planning applications decided within the relevant time, and as it states in the comments there, that's been done due to internal efficiency improvements. And when departments make internal efficiency improvements, they should be patted on the back, literally. They've done a good job. So thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 5 is urgent late business. Is there any urgent late business? No urgent late business. There's no confidential business. No confidential urgent business. Therefore, there is nothing more to do. So I declare the meeting closed at 6:30.